reality. Tonight we are going to attempt to cure any election anxiety you may have. I am treading on a slippery slope discussing this topic, but I want to try to stay focused on how we deal with this, not what your opinion is or what my opinion is or who we are voting for. Okay, so stay with me on this because this is about mental health and well-being and how best to function in society and how best to make sure that you personally are living your best life and not getting caught up in things that we really can't control. Now, I want to say, I don't care who you vote for, you should vote. That is what you can do. You can talk to others and have discussions with others about what you believe. But ultimately, the key, the premise of this video is to ensure that no matter what, we're going to be okay. I want to start by discussing a few quotes. This first one is from Marcus Aurelius. Those who are able to see beyond the shadows and lies of their culture will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses. In this, I find kind of a unique, if it says that those who are able to see beyond the lies of the culture will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses. What would you prefer? Would you prefer to be believed by the masses, or would you prefer to have the truth, have the peace of mind, of knowing that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay? Both sides of this election would have you believe that if the other wins, it's going to be a complete collapse. How could you not have anxiety? If you're given two choices, and if you pick the wrong one, you end up in complete chaos. Of course, that would give you cause for concern, but I believe that is the lie. And on that, both sides are equally as guilty. I would venture to say that I am older than most everyone listening to this. I have lived through a lot of elections, and I would say I remember when George Bush Sr. was president. I was alive during Reagan's term, but I was so young that I really didn't care. But George Bush Sr. was probably the first election that I kind of understood. And then Bill Clinton. And watching him get impeached. And then George Bush beating Al Gore, and the Supreme Court had to decide that election. It was like we really didn't know who was going to be president for like 4 or 5 was the end of the world if the other one didn't win. And now, what do you know? It's the end of the world again if the other person doesn't win. The point is, it hasn't been the end of the world. It will not be the end of the world. Will things change depending on who wins? Of course, the direction will be moderately different. There'll be things that the one focuses on that the other doesn't. But ultimately, we will wake up the day after election, the day after, the day after, the day after, and we will go on. Life will not stop. And so this is where I feel like we, you, me, and others like us who accept that we are going to be okay, we are going to survive no matter what, that we can have a preference, but that we keep the frame of mind that no matter what happens, we are going to be okay. One, like today, I have no anxiety at all. I don't care. I kind of, in my mind, I've thought, okay, yes, I know that I think we would be better off one way, but if the other way wins, there'll be some advantages that I can say, see, this is why I told you this would happen, in that, not that I prophesying something, but I'm saying the advantage would be, for example, Trump says that if he doesn't win, Israel won't exist in 2 years. So in 2 years, when Israel still exists, it will be like, okay, see, that's where things got too dramatic. And on the other side, Kamala and people that support her, a lot of them state that they don't believe that Trump will leave office if he ever gets back in. Well, if he wins, I guarantee he'll leave. And when he does, it will be like, see, you were afraid of all of that for nothing. You convinced yourself. You made yourself believe this, or you allowed someone to convince you of this, but it was never the truth, and it was truly super far-fetched because he was already in office. He thought that the election was stolen from him, and he still packed his bags. So, and on Trump's side, I remember during Trump-Biden, Trump said, if Biden wins, your 401k will go to zero. Well, today we have a record stock market, folks. It's higher than it's ever been in history. Obviously, nobody's 401k went to zero. And so that was, again, rhetoric that gets just these exaggerations and the fear. And I think people get caught up in doing it because it's the way that psychology works. People are motivated by fear. People are motivated. It's a very motivating factor. If you are afraid, you will run, or you are afraid, you will take action. It's like, I think it's kind of like religions are like that, in that you are either drawn in by this huge prize of heaven, or you are frightened to death of hell, so you do good, so you try to walk the straight line, right? One of two, either the reward or the pain. And so it's like psychologically, that's how we humans are wired up. And so I think that's why politicians are trained. They have advisors and people who know best what to do, and they come up with these things that make it seem far worse than it really is. On the blue side, they are saying that women will not have any reproductive rights at all, that the A word will go away forever. Well, it's not the case. The states will rule. There may be one or two states that totally outlaw it. Who knows if that's the way it goes. But ultimately, it's kind of been surprising that most of the red states have been making laws now that it's in their hands to make their own laws. The states have been allowing it. So it's not been the end all, and eventually that whole topic needs to be resolved somehow, one way or another. But those are the things that we get to choose on. But again, it's not going to be the extreme. It's not going to be, if the red wins, it's not going to be, it's not going to be banned forever. And if the blue wins, there aren't going to be like hundreds of thousands of 9-month A's happening, right? So it's those two extremes that I think we get fooled by. And I don't think it has to be that way. Eventually I think logic and common sense are going to prevail in our society. I think as technology takes over, that's going to happen. So let's move on to the next quote. The next one. Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. Meaning that if you are holding this anger in, and I know a lot of anxiety is caused by anger, or the fact that you're afraid, we get mad at the source of our fear, right? So if you're a red guy and you're afraid the blue team is going to win, then you have anger towards the blue team, right? If you have true fear over the result, and I think that this is where all of this division is coming from, is the fear that both sides are trying to create. And I think that what happens, again, anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. So you're holding this anger in, like if you're mad at the blue person, you don't know her, she doesn't know you, but you're holding all this anger inside over her, and it's hurting you. The anger, the bitterness, the rage, it's making you less of a person. It's causing you harm, and it doesn't have to. You can let it go. You can choose to know that you're going to be okay. You can choose to have that warrior mindset that it doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to survive. I'm going to be just fine. I'm going to make it no matter what. That is how we get through. And then it's the same reason I've never been a big sports guy, because it's kind of like, this is like a game, and it's the red or blue team, right? And if you're anxious about the results, if you care so much that it causes you this intense feeling, these emotions, it's dangerous. It's okay to care, but you can't take it to the level of hate and anger, because it will eat you up. It will make you less of a person. It will make you unattractive. You will not. You will find it harder to be around people and to like your fellow man. So be careful with the anger. Next, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. Marcus Aurelius. Never let the future disturb you. You see, it is a choice. It is up to you what to believe and what to feel. You get to decide how you want to feel about this. You have the choice to say, if the other side wins, it's going to be awful and it's going to be horrible for me. Or you can say, if the other side wins, I know I'm going to be just fine. It's not what I wanted, but I know going to be just fine and I'm going to survive. And maybe it's going to be interesting. You find the beauty in the pain, and if you don't get the result you want, then you find the reasons. Like I said, like I can see both sides where I can say, okay, if the red team wins, then I can say, hey, I can watch him leave after 4 years and say to the blue side, see, all of that fear. You see what you remember? I went back to that. I've already mentioned that, but that's why I have that mindset. And back to the sports analogy real quick while I was thinking about it. The point about sports is some people are so passionate about their team. They buy hats and they wear the shirts and they watch the game and they're like, oh, they're devastated if they lose, and some people even cry. It's as if they're part of the team. It's as if they get paid if they win, or it's as if they can get a promotion, as if there is something in their life that changes due to the result of that game. And it's not. It isn't healthy to have that level of emotion over something that is so trivial in society, that is truly. I always have used the example like stadiums are shaped like a funnel, right? The stands go outwards because the stairs go up, and it's like a funnel, and everybody's money just funnels down to the ground level where the players are, and they take it all, and then the people in the stands just leave, and the people on the ground take all the money with them. It's kind of how I looked at it early on, and I just thought, I don't want that emotional thing. Now, I still like, if my hometown, like my state is Indiana, and so like if the Indianapolis Colts, they've won the Super Bowl one time, and when it happened, I'm like, wow, that's cool, our state won. I mean, I find that, I can still relate to it, but I don't let it take me to some ridiculous emotional level where it impacts my life, where it makes any change to my life at all. If the Indianapolis Colts would have lost the Super Bowl, it wouldn't have mattered to me. I would have just thought, man, at least they went, right? And I could have just been nonchalant about it, but very non-emotional, because I didn't let it control my emotions. It didn't change my state. And that's what you have to do when it comes to this election, or really any election. It doesn't change your state. Your mental state is what I'm talking about, not your physical state that you live in, but your mental state. You know that nothing will change. Like if I sat in this chair and just looked at this camera until after the election, and then the results came in, and I'm still sitting here, the lights would not have turned off. My water still runs, my dogs are still here. I wouldn't even know what's going on outside of just looking at this camera, because in here it's still the same. Why does this have to affect what's in here? It doesn't have to. And that's a choice. That's what we get to decide. What's next? It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus said that. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And that again, we just go to that election. How you react to this is truly the key, and that is your choice. It is up to you to decide. What will you do if your preference is not chosen? How will you behave? How will it change the way you feel? You can't let it bring you fear. You have to know, like, for one, if you're like a blue team and you're afraid of Trump, you're afraid of the red team, if you're red and you're afraid that the blue is going to win, well, the blue has had power for 12 of the last 16 years. You've survived 12 of the last 16 years under blue rule. You will survive another 4. If it happens, you're going to survive. I mean, there's a lot of people that say on the blue side that the person in control is really a figurehead, that there's really a team of people behind the leader. Like, it's kind of not a stretch to say that Biden wasn't fully there, but like was probably being coached, or advisors kind of making the decisions. And so it would stand to and things have been okay. Yeah, we had pretty high inflation, but a lot of that was that Inflation Reduction Act that was printed, and it cost a lot of it. And Trump had printed a lot of COVID cash too, which didn't have immediate results, but probably trickled in and caused part of the inflation problem. So both parties are likely carry some blame on the inflation. And as far as in America, it hasn't been that bad. Yes, worldwide, other wars have started, but it hasn't really changed here in America. And things have been relatively good. Most people that I know that want to work are working, and they're surviving pretty well. So it stands to reason we'll be okay. Whoever's kind of advising Biden is likely going to be the same people advising Kamala. So likely you're going to be okay. So both sides, if it happens, we're going to make it. We're going to be okay. That is really the key takeaway here. To switch your mindset from feeling like massive fear or anxiety if the other team wins. Look at it like a game, because truly that's what it is. I mean, if you look at how the whole structure of money and the whole thing is like the whole system is just a monster. I mean, the whole thing is so... If we could go back in time, imagine this. If there were 500 of us humans, ASMR Reality is one of them, on this futuristic spacecraft, and we came to land on this planet, and everything is here: the trees, the water, the animals, elephants and deer and dogs and cats, and everything is here. There's mountains and volcanoes and trees everywhere and oceans and beaches. And we landed here and we realized that there are no human beings here. And so imagine this happens today. If today we found an Earth that was pristine, that there were no humans on, what do you bet we would do things differently? What do you bet that what would be the first thing that we would do? The first thing that we would do today is probably say, okay, what do we need here first? The number one resource that we find to keep us alive is water. So the very first thing we do is say no one at all ever messes with this water. Imagine having pristine, pure rivers you could drink out of, or creeks and streams. Those are the things. The very first thing we would do would be colossally different than what we have, and we would do a lot of things different. So the point is that everything is the whole system is so it's so wrong and so backwards that it doesn't really matter what's about to happen. It's gonna limp itself along. It's broken, wobbled, roll down the future like it always has. We are gonna make it. We are gonna be just fine. And 4 years from now, just like this, saying, hey everybody, we're gonna be just fine. But I would say the other thing that we should do is, as Americans, finding the appreciation in this election, because we are likely never, ever in our lifetimes ever going to have anything remotely like this, where one candidate has been president, then lost, and coming back again. And he's a very polarizing figure, and he's controversial, and he's different, and he wasn't a lifelong politician. And on the other side, we have a current president that has voluntarily bowed out. Maybe he was highly encouraged to do so, but bowed out. And someone installed in his place that didn't receive any votes. The first nominee with 0 votes ever to become, she wasn't elected, she was chosen. And that's unheard of. And so we're watching this thing go down, and if you watch the vice presidential debate, it was like way more normal. And so that's kind of like a preview to the future. This is like the last hoorah of some wild show in politics, because nothing else after this is likely to be this crazy and dynamic. So we find that you got to live through it. We're gonna make it through, no matter what the results are. We look for the reasons why. We wanna, find reasons why. Like, even whatever team you want, there are advantages to the other team winning, for sure. So you can find a reason that it's gonna be okay either way. I hope this helps you, and I hope I didn't offend anyone. I'm trying to be as neutral as possible. And I just hope that everybody just can work on, after this, we can all just work on trying to get along with each other, and realizing, like, there was a day where 24-hour news changed society, because everybody thinks they're a politician now. Everybody thinks that these, it's become cool to be involved in this kind of stuff, even if you're not. And I'm not trying to insult anybody, but it's like me. It's like, all I really do is vote. I'm not running for office. I'm not out there campaigning for anyone. So I don't really have all I needed to do. The best thing I can do, and the best thing most of us can do, is to just be good citizens, be good people, and everything's going to be just fine. That's what we can do to make a difference in this world, is we can be good people. And that's how I'm going to close this one. Let's all go out and be good citizens. Let's love each other, no matter who we vote for. Let's get along. I'll see you on the next video. Good night.